Okay. Let's go and call everything to order here. And let's begin with roll call. You're not Bridget.
I'm Carla.
Hey, Carla.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you don't mind starting with roll call, please.
Good evening. No, not at all. Mr. Strobel? I'm here. Mr. Rotella? Mr. Witten? Absent. Mr. Torelli? Absent. Mr. Graves? Here. Mr. Dennison? Absent. Ms. Norvell?
Here.
Mr. Morley?
Here.
Ms. Roseanne Lovell?
Here.
Ms. Kitty McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Flanagan? Mr. McLaughlin? Absent. And Mr. Harrison?
Here.
Okay, and Chair Henderson?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting on January 6th?
So moved. Ted Morley.
Second, Ed Strobel.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we do have a quorum. So let's go ahead and start with our Waterway Crime and Boating Safety Report with Officer Kenneth Soma. Yeah, if you want to step up right here and
People in Zoom land can hear you.
Good morning, or good evening. So for the month of January, we had 51 citations issued. We responded to the dock collapse that was up at ICW in Oakland Park with, we had 3 people in the water when that call came out. We had 2 boating accidents. We had a hit and run accident where we did locate the vessel the next day in Dania Beach. And then we also had 65 hours worked on the Embley grant.
okay, great. Any questions for the board, for the officer? I guess we don't have anything really upcoming in the next month, do we?
Not for the next month, no.
Right, okay. Okay, if we don't have any questions for the officer, thank you. And we'll continue to press on. With item number 5, dock waiver. 625 Southwest First Place, Daniel Cole Properties and Land, which I believe is being represented by Tyler Chappelle and the Chappelle Group.
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Okay, if you want to state your name again, get started.
Okay, yes. Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Jenna Robbins with the Chappelle Group. We were here last month presenting this variance application on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Daniel Cole with Cole Properties and Land LLC. The variance application or dock waiver application is for 625 Southwest 5th Place in Fort Lauderdale. This property is located along the New River, as I'm sure you remember, just before it splits off between the South and North Fork. Here are just some aerials of the property from the northeast side facing southwest. Another angle of the property, they have 2 existing wood docks and about 8 mooring piles out there. And it currently accommodates 4 to 5 slips. These slips are also perpendicular mooring, consistent with the other neighbors along the New River. And so we've updated our exhibits because last time our survey did not pick up the existing wood mooring piles that are currently out there. So as I said, there's 8 mooring pilings out there consisting of wood, 2 wood finger piers, and an existing 172 linear foot concrete seawall. Last month, we were proposing to install a 164 linear foot concrete seawall with backfill to create one uniform seawall along the length of the property, as well as install 3 50-foot by 7-foot floating docks, in addition to the installation of 4 wood mooring pilings. So we were requesting a maximum waiver for the structures to extend 55.6 feet from the property line. We took everybody's considerations from the neighbors and the board into our thought process, and now we are proposing 3 45-foot long floating docks with the 4 additional mooring piles. So therefore, we are requesting waivers for the 3 floating docks and the 4 mooring piles to extend a maximum of 50.6 feet from the property line. These floating docks will accommodate 5 70-foot slips, which extend the same length into the waterway as the current existing slips there. Here's just a cross-sectional view of the proposed structures with a 45-foot long floating dock with a ramp connected to the proposed seawall. And here's our distance exhibit. These are the existing conditions. This aerial was taken from Property Appraiser, showing 4 current boats that are moored perpendicular to the seawall. And then we are proposing the 3 floating docks superimposed onto an aerial as well, with 4 mooring piles to accommodate 5 existing slips. These slips will also be authorized through a submerged land lease, as the property is located on submerged state lands. And this will extend about 74 feet from the property line. Here's an overall showing the length of the total width of the waterway at 250 feet, and showing that the proposed slips are consistent with the adjacent neighbors and the slips across the waterway at the park. And then we recently were out there just this past Thursday, and the perpendicular boat on the left side of the picture is actually the neighbor's boat. And then there was a 120-foot long boat on the right side being towed by steel towing. And then the boat pictured right here on the right is an 80-foot boat. And they traverse the New River mainly on the north side. So you can't even see the applicants' boats that are currently moored there, the 70-foot vessels that are currently there. So you can see that navigation along the New River will not be impeded by these proposed structures and slips, because the proposed slips will not exceed the length of the existing slips that are currently there. And here's just another angle. The bow of the boat on the left is the neighbors, so you can't even see the applicants' vessels that are currently there. You can see them towing it in the middle, as well as this 80-foot boat on the right side, which is the north side of the river. So overall, these are the waivers that we are requesting for a maximum of 50.6 feet from the property line and a minimum of 28.1 for an overall waiver of 25.6 feet and a minimum of 3.1 feet. The extraordinary circumstances which warrant this request for a dock waiver include that all the structures and pilings proposed, as well as the slips, will not exceed 30% the width of the waterway. It will not impede navigation, as the width of the waterway is approximately 250 feet wide. We are proposing these structures to rehabilitate the existing slips that are already there, so that the applicant can safely moor his vessels, especially during high wave energy. As I'm sure everybody knows, there's a lot of traffic, and the vessels that are currently there would just like to have safer mooring, utilizing these new docks and mooring pilings. and it's also necessary to safely moor the residence vessels during high wind events and weather. And then here's some historical imagery from 2010, 2014, and 2016 showing these existing slips that have been there for the past 11, 12 years. They all consist of perpendicular mooring, which is consistent with his neighbors to the east, as well on the north side of the river. And again, in those other pictures that were taken on the New River, you couldn't even see the bow of his boat. It was the neighbors to the east on these pictures. And we currently have applications in with the environmental agencies, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and Broward County Environmental Protection and Growth Management Department. And we also have 3 letters of support from the adjacent neighbors. And the proposed dock waiver is consistent with existing waivers that were previously issued in the vicinity, the maximum being 62 feet from the property line and the minimum being 38. And we're requesting one for a maximum of 50.6 feet from the property line. And just to give you another idea of all the neighboring structures along the New River, they vary from 45 feet to 68 feet. Some are 70 feet from the property line to accommodate this perpendicular mooring throughout the New River. And then just to justify that it won't exceed the 30% width of the waterway, we've drawn the 30% width in blue, so the proposed structures will not exceed this limit. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board. Richard, go ahead.
Did I hear you say it's 5 70-foot slips?
Correct.
The other thing about it is once you go beyond 4, according to what I know, if you have 5 docks, you have to put a 2-inch fire line in there, and you have to get permission. Because to keep residential docks, you can only go to 4 slips, and that's it. 5, you would go to a whole new rule.
Tyler Chappelle, the Chappelle Group, 714 East McNabb, Pompano Beach. There is going to be a slip for each unit that's proposed. That was on slide 10 that shows the site plan layout. I think that was one of the questions last time. And any fire regulation that they need to meet, they will meet for that proposed development.
But one more question. When you're going to 5, it technically becomes more, I think. And the other thing is, as I brought up last week, are these slips going to be attached to a land unit, or are they going to be rented?
They are part of the condo development, which each unit owner will have a slip. So there's 5 units, 5 slips.
And when do they plan to have the land units built where they have the slips built? Let's say you build, when are you going to build the slips?
The site plan is in for staff review now. So the development and the slips are planned to be built at the same time. And per city code, we can't have slips that don't have if he demos the property, the house that's there now, in order to start the development for the site plan, he cannot have those slips there until there's a CO on the building.
Question. I noticed a couple weeks ago that the castle got historic designation. How is that going to change the plan for upland units? Because now it's got historic designation. It has to go through a lot more to be torn down.
The castle is, my understanding is the castle is to remain and will become part of the fifth unit, which the owner will keep.
Okay.
Go Ted.
Ted Morley, following up on Richard's question to you, you keep referring to these slips as for the residents' use. Is there a prohibition against renting these slips in the condo docks that's proposed? Or are these going to be rented out to brokers and transient vessels?
I have not seen the association documents, but their intent, the applicant's intent, is to have it tied to the unit, which is where the value is. So the value of the unit becomes more with a slip attached to it. So they will be selling the units with the slips. If there's a sublease provision or something with the association documents, I haven't seen that, but they understand that in the city of Fort Lauderdale, it is not legal to rent slips at a residential property.
Are the current vessels there property of the residents, or are they rentals? Do you know?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
So are they currently rented, the vessels that are there?
The vessels that are there are currently rented, correct?
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Tyler, what's the max size that you're gonna be able to put in there? 70.
70 feet.
Do you know if the current piles that are beyond 25 feet have had a variance, or are they just in there illegally?
There is no variance that I'm aware of for that property or any of the properties that are in that area.
Go ahead, Barry.
I think it was established at an earlier meeting that there was no permit on record for any of those pilings that were put in. But it brings up a question of the submerged land lease that is proposed. That it would, from the drawing, it would include, I'm assuming, all those existing, the entire slips, everything would be part of the new submerged land lease. Is there one there now at all?
There's no submerged land lease there now. There will be a submerged land lease in the future, which will encompass all of the docks and the slips.
Well, the boats that are there now, are they there legally?
I can't talk to the legality of whether or not the boats are there I don't know who the owners of the boats, but I think we established they're rented. So my understanding is, which is a lot of boats in the city of Fort Lauderdale are rented, but are not necessarily at the same property that is owned. That's been established for years, and I'm sure this is the same here.
I have another question. When you sell the units, they get a slip with the unit. Is that slip deeded?
The slip, you can't deed a slip that's in submerged lands, but you can provide a slip that's part of the common area for the property. That's how you know how that is. You get around that by doing common area property. Everybody owns 1/5 of the common area. And
Go ahead, Ted.
Ted Morley, one more question there. Regarding your extraordinary circumstances request, item 4 discusses high wave energy from excessive boat wakes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that a no-wake zone on the New River?
It is definitely in a wake zone, but it's,
That doesn't mean everybody follows it.
On when 30-foot boats at 10 o'clock at night going 30
Yeah.
miles and 30 knots, and, yeah, it's a bad area there, especially after dark
Okay.
on a Saturday night.
Tyler, what is there right now? In
2
those
finger
slip-
piers and mooring piles.
In terms of
and
the
a
boats,
seawall- and
no,
a
what boats are there right now?
Oh, there's a 70-foot azimuth and like a sailboat, and I'm not sure of the exact.
But there's a 70-foot
Big.
azimuth.
Oh yeah, there's a 70-foot azimuth. Yeah.
Other questions from our board?
Yep. Tyler, what would he be allowed to do, the property owner, as of right, assuming we deny this waiver? He'll still be able to dock a 70-foot boat there. It will just not be as safe.
Correct.
If the neighbors complain about the pilings, wouldn't he legally be required to move them if the city told him to? Is there a legal piling?
He can. There's been no citation regarding the piles that are there now. Whether it can be grandfathered in depends on our research as to how long they've been there. But to answer the question further would be that, if he had piles installed at 25 feet or whatever that didn't need a variance, then, he would still have to.
Put a 70-foot boat on a 25-foot pile and a 3-knot.
No, and that's the reason for our request.
Yeah, there was a Nordhaven there, or one of the boats actually had an anchor out because there weren't enough piles, not on his property, but further the way down. It's like, how do you put an anchor into the
river.
just every day? Yeah, exactly.
Barry.
Last month, Tyler, following up on what was just said, we were told that whether we get the waiver or not, we're going to go ahead and the boats are going to be there. That was from one of the people that spoke on your behalf. Why bother coming here now? He made it clear that, their plans are going ahead, and if we didn't approve it, they were still going ahead with it.
It's an improvement to the property in order to safely moor 5 70-foot vessels, and that's why we're requesting the variance. As far as the gentleman who spoke before, I can't speak for him, but as far as our request tonight is to put in floating docks, which are much better than a fixed wood dock that's there now, and additional piles to support vessels that are 70 feet. We moved the docks back as far as we could in order to make that work, which is what's before you tonight.
Chair, I've got one more.
Go ahead, Ted.
Barry, and apologize for dominating the discussion here. On the supporting documents, you've got 3 letters of support, but it appears that they're from the exact same person or LLC that just owns different properties, and we've got a plethora of residents against it. So are there any other letters of support from other people other than the one person that owns multiple properties or developments around this property?
The letters of support that we have are from the adjacent property owner, which is the most affected, and then we have, I believe, one across the street. And
Same
that's
owner,
it.
though.
But yes, Mr. Brin, yes, he owns the majority of that. Actually, he owns everything to the bridge except for the multifamily.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Ed, what is your perspective for this? I wasn't here last week when I guess it first got promoted, but you live like right there, right?
Well, my biggest concern is that 777 next door, on the other side of the yellow townhomes. We approved 38 feet. The city commission came in and turned us down. And the first time we've been turned over in the 7 years I've been here. And then the other issue next door, the Con Association President, Eric Stern, has also contacted us and let us know the association is against him as well. And across the way, the neighbor who is directly across the way, who lives in the first house next to the marina, has also sent letters of non-support. So basically, personally, I don't have a dog in hunt. It's far away from me, but as far as the neighbors around them, they are not liking it.
So do you feel if they can park a 70-foot boat there and they're going to do it anyway, from a safety perspective, what do you like?
I don't see it as a safety. I think those piles will end up either being pulled or they will not support that kind of torque. I snapped off a 12-inch pile with a 48-foot boat on a high current out day. Snapped a 2-year-old pile that big around trying to do a pivot turn on an outgoing tide. So you're not putting that many 70-foot boats on old piles.
Thank you.
My personal opinion,
Thank
since
you.
I snapped one of the 48-foot boat.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Tyler, previously you showed that it's been 20 years that there's been a 65 or 70-foot boat in that spot. Is there any history of safety issues or damage that's happened in the last 20 years?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so
As far as
apparently they
you're talking about,
apparently they are able to safely moor a 65 or 70-foot boat in that location with the way that they are now. So I don't exactly see the need for the waiver.
Well, if you look at the pictures and the slides, you'll see that
I am.
east there's the bigger boats, and then to the west there's either no boats or there's smaller boats. So there's 2 finger piers there that are on the east side of the property. So we're actually proposing an additional dock to the west. So there is pilings that are more, I guess there's double 12-inch piles to the east. So that's why the bigger boats are on that side. So in order to accommodate 5 of them, we have to install new piles and docks in order for them to be able to moor 5 70-foot boats. So as far as your question regarding whether or not there's been any problems, I don't know of any accidents, but I know that they're not able to moor a size boat of 70 feet in those western slips currently.
Okay, but the existing wood piles, are those within code or not?
Those are would require a waiver for the existing piles that are there now.
So just a matter of clarity, then those existing piles are there illegally without a waiver.
Right.
We have no record of a waiver for those
And
piles.
the vessels being docked there right now are being docked illegally as rentals.
I don't have no idea if they're rentals, but I assume.
Well, you said it earlier that they were rentals.
Well, I
That's
assume
on the
they
record, I
are.
believe.
I assume they are rentals.
Okay. All right, just clarify.
There's only one house there, and there's,
That seems to be the.
And one follow-up, as far as the water depth, because the boats are showed, moored stern too. What is the water depth at the seawall, and is there enough to actually put the back of the boat all the way up against the seawall? It doesn't seem like it would actually happen that way.
we have 4 feet between the seawall and the back of the boat. The proposed lease is 74 feet. So yes, we're not proposing to put the boat right at the seawall.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Anybody else from the board? Okay, let's turn it over to the public. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak?
Were there any board members not here last week or last month? Do we want to have a quick overview about the people who spoke last week who have also sent letters in, or they didn't get a chance to hear them?
I mean, that's what the minutes are for. I don't think.
I
we
read
need
the
to
minutes and read
recap
the
for people.
letters, so I'm up on it all.
Make sure that those weren't here for the last
Yep.
two go-arounds.
Thank you, Ed.
Heard that.
Okay, then, we have nobody from the public, then let's bring it back to the board for any more discussion. Do we have any more discussion? Any more thoughts? Any more questions for Mr. Chappelle? Okay. I guess that we'll seek a motion on the floor. Do we not have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Let's, Andrew, in this case, let's take a voice vote.
By roll call?
Yeah, by roll call.
No.
Mr. Rotella? No. Ms. Torelli? Yes. Mr. Graves? Ms. Norvell? No. Mr. Morley?
No.
Ms. Roseanne Lovell?
Yes.
Ms. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan? Can Mr. Harrison vote?
Yes, you can.
Mr. Harrison?
No.
Chair Henderson?
Yes.
4 yeses. 7 noes. Wait. 2, 3, 4.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it, Sean.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Okay, good discussion. I believe next we have John. You're up for Marine Facilities Update.
Hi, everybody. John Luska, Marine Facilities Supervisor. Just want to tell you what we've been up to the last year and a half with projects that are grant-related that we get involved in. So the first one is Bill Keith Shoreline Stabilization Project. So Bill Keith is right across from the Lauderdale Marine Center, and with the boat traffic and things, it's been eroding slowly on the edge of the island. Now, this is the current condition as we know it now. And in 2014, the city did do a small project where those arrows are, where they place rocks or coquina rocks along the shoreline to stabilize it in those places. But it's going away in other areas. And this worked. And it was monitored for 5 years. So there's good data to show that it works. Pardon me, this is a little bit. Let me see if I get another. Okay. And then here's a view here of, this is high tide, of course, but you can see how close where the beach, picnicking beach is to the water. And you can see some of those rocks that are around that they put in there. And you can see that it's starting to undermine that tree. And here's another one here where you see some exposed roots from mangroves in another area where there's a picnic table. So I live up in Jupiter, and there was an area along the Intercoastal Waterway and what they used to call the Jupiter River. Okay, thanks. And Inland Navigation did a revetment project along that intercoastal. The top of this picture is north, and it's been extremely successful. And I'm on the water almost every weekend there, and you can see the sand beaches coming back pretty quick. And when you run by there with the wakes, you can see how quickly that revetment arrests those waves. So this is a slide that I made that we brought up to Fine to show them what we had in mind. And we wanted to leave some openings in there where people could get in with kayaks and paddle boards and things like that. So it's designed now. Fine assisted with us on a design. You can see here in a couple of areas, like right there, there's the opening there that's 40 feet wide, and there's another one over here that's 40 feet wide. Each one of these rock piles, they're going to move some of the rocks that are there and replace some of the rocks with new rocks. They're going to be kind of shaped like a teepee, a long teepee, and there'll be a groin in the middle to hold the rocks in place. So they're going to drive a sheet pile and then, stack the rocks on there, and we'll see how it goes. So that's that one. And the next one is, oops, I screwed up. Sorry, guys. And that project's about $560,000 for that, I think.
Jonathan, how big are those rocks going to be? Just curious.
I imagine they're going to vary in size, but I don't know what it is. I know they studied to find out how much pressure they could take, and that's part of the reason why the groins are there, because they lean against each other and hold each other up.
Do you know where they get the rocks from?
I don't.
Might be an opportunity to, I unfortunately wasn't here last week, but Dr. Charlie Gregory that spoke last month, he's built these reef modules, and potentially instead of throwing rocks there, we could use it as an opportunity to see if we could put reef modules that would have the same effect of stopping the waves, but create habitats for fish and maybe throw some mangroves and stuff.
Tinker toy things?
Yeah, you kind of put them together and they all stack up. And
we could talk about it. It's already designed and permitted for what it is. Yeah. And just one more thing on those groins, they're actually screens so that water can go through them and they won't, catch small fish and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. So the next project is the Kunihatchee Lagoon, and here's what it used to look like a while ago. And
I was off. Sorry about that. Before we run to that one, real quickly, wasn't the marina to upriver from it supposed to do some kind of
Yeah,
work
yeah,
there?
there's a little bit of washout where their new seawall, the return on their seawall goes into the island. And when that, what's it called? South Fork Marina now, that they agreed to work with the city to somehow stabilize that corner with the rocks. And consultants know about it. We've reached out and spoken to Colby Cooper, remember him?
Yes.
And, they've been very accommodating as far as that goes. And so we'll see once we get the construction. Now we'll invite them into the kickoff meeting and see where we're going to go.
Thanks.
You got it. So this is Kunihatchee Park, which is just north of the Davie Boulevard Bridge. And we had the neighbors wanted a launch for kayaks and canoes there. And we originally had gone to Find and BBIP for funding to put a floating dock in there that they could launch. And BBIP didn't want to fund it. So we came up with an idea to put in a lagoon. And this is just a rendering of what we used to talk to the neighbors about it. And it's pretty cool. If you look at it, we've got the beach in there. We've got some of the coquina rock on the edges. And we put in some planters for mangroves to try to grow some habitat there. Cancel. Got to use my arrows. And here's the sketch. This is the Wantman group that designed this, and they also were the consultant on the Shoreline Stabilization project. But you can see there, the planter in the middle there, there's coquina rock that's submerged. What they did was they cut the seawall cap off, dewatered it, and then poured a new cap over the top and at an angle that would go like this, planter, and then the other side of the lagoon. And when I presented this to Find, the commissioner in Miami-Dade loved it so much I sent him the plans because they got the same kind of a problem at theirs. Pretty neat. So so there's just a seawall cap that's submerged there, and it's probably about 18 inches under the water at low tide so that small boats can get in there and it'll discourage other boats from going in there. It's lit with solar lighting at night, and there's signs that warn, and there it is. So it came out really good, and it was how much was that one? That was $870,000, and Fine gave us $220 on that. And there's some people using it. And that's what it's for. It's part of this idea of the New River Loop, which is this paddleboard journey from, up by Delaveau Park all the way around the Davie Canal and back. So that's Coontie. Derelict Vessels.
A lot of people using it.
Derelict Vessels. So this one keeps us pretty busy. Shout out to Officer Soma and Zach Dudas with the FWC. They've really streamlined this process for us to be able to get these things out of there. They're doing all the administrative work and handing us a letter that says you can remove it. So we've done 6 of these in the last 18 months. Find pays 75% of what the costs are. This is the latest one we just did. This is just north of Las Olas Boulevard, or Las Olas Marina. And 28-footer sank. Grady Marine Services did it for us. Fine paid 75%, and it was $7,000 to take it out. So we also have Find grants as a source, and we also have BBIP, which is the Boating Improvement Program of Broward County, which we have a debit card is how I describe it. We got a grant from them 2018 for $50,000, and they will pay up to 100% to remove any qualifying vessel. So that's a qualifying vessel because it's not tied to anybody's property. And Find has the same rule. The next one, it's not working. I'll just go through a couple of these. This one is the next one we're going to get. This is a steel boat. It's up by north side of Las Olas, It's going to be about 9 grand, 10 grand to get rid of it. I'll be working on that tomorrow.
How much is a steel weigh? Probably worth that. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. But what's interesting is not everybody has the tools to cut that up, to properly dispose of it. And each one of these that we get these letters from, you guys may remember this one. This is the one that burned up by the South Fork Marina. That one's gone. So that's what we do with that stuff. And, he's got another one in the queue, right? Yeah. So keeps us busy. George English Park. This project started in 2014 when I first got a grant to design and permitting. This is what it looks like now, or one of the ramps. And it's tile. And one of the reasons why we went to do this is because when they raised the Sunrise Bridge up to 11 feet, now it's let some of the bigger boats in there, 30-footers. These ramps are short, and this tile stuff doesn't seem to hold up under a lot of weight. So here's another picture. This is the east ramp looking out over the lagoon. So here's where we are yesterday. This is the western ramp. And you can see they've dewatered it, and you can see where these big blocks of concrete are, and those are going to be where the floating docks are attached. It's going to look like this. So they call this a ground out system rather than have a ramp to a floating dock with a railing that gets in your way when you want to load your boat. They have this system. So the first pontoon, if you will, sits right on the bottom, and it works as the ramp, an ADA ramp. Here's another side here. I just brought this picture in because it shows the ADA curbing on there so that you don't have to have a railing. The docks are on site for the west ramp right now, right there. And what I like about this is that they're made by Gator Culvert up in Sanford, Florida, which is their good docks. And what I like about them is the pilings are captive so that both sides of the dock can be used rather than just the middle. So we'll see how that shakes out. They should be done with this project April. It's looking like they'll be doing that. That one is $992,000. Find gave us $400,000. And BBIP gave us $219,000. So I would say 65% roughly of its grant funded. A couple more and we'll be done. Riverwalk floating docks. In 2011, we put in a bunch of floating docks on the New River. Barry was on the chairman then. And they're really, really popular. So what we're going to do is design and permitting is done. We're going to tie these two, the one that's in front of what the Maritime Museum was, to that dock that was funded by Find, the one on the right, to the ones that we put in 2011. So it'll all be sort of together. One of the rubs that we ran into with permitting is the marine facility operating licenses that we're also hot on. So we have to build this as a viewing platform with a temporary railing on it so that nobody can dock. And then we are on a waiting list now to get those permits, and we'll be able to take that off, and people can use it for what we want. But this place gets insane use. This is the jazz brunch one Sunday. And then they have they had the battle for the paddle. It's a great place. This is the Kids at Risk Duck Derby. Anybody do that where you pay $5 and you race down the river? And the last thing they did was probably pretty spectacular. Was that yacht hop thing that they had up there with all the chefs on the boat. What was it called? Lauderdale Live, the Yacht Discovery Experience. And Sweeting Park Dock. This was a long project. because of COVID and pricing. But this is what the Sweeting Park dock looked like. This is up in the North Fork of the New River, north of Broward, across the river from Delaveau. And it's just a very passive little park that the city redid that's got grills and, like a pagoda picnic area and some new benches. And we put this in here, and it turned out like
Guys
this.
have never kayaked up the North River. It's a lot of fun. You go up through there.
Yeah.
You go all the way to Swap Shop.
And we also put a little beach in there too, because this dock, you can't land on it so tall. But what's interesting about this dock is it's all sustainable materials. It's Peterson pilings, stainless steel, shroud material, stainless steel handrails, recycled plastic decking that doesn't have the wood chips mixed into it, all stainless fittings. So it should be there a while. When I went up to take this picture for Find, there was a guy fishing on it. I asked him if he would just move for just a second. He was like, sure. So that's done. And the last one, that's it. So does anybody have any questions?
Do you know when you're going to start construction on Cooley's?
Actually, you mean to redo the marina?
Redoing the docks?
I guess it's part of the park bond.
We'll bring you that information as soon as we have it.
As soon as you know.
Yeah.
I had a question regarding the seawalls themselves, because we had a meeting 6 months ago where the seawalls were falling in.
That project's funded. Yes. Yep. Now I don't know when they're going to start it, but they've got the money to do it now, so that's good.
Before the next boat
Rob,
parade.
go ahead, Rob.
Do you want to be my business partner? You seem like a money magnet. Yeah, for creating more business dollars. It takes a lot of hard work.
Thank you. I enjoy it. I really do. It's nice to see some of these things, come together. I mean, especially the George English Park. We first got this thing going back in 2014. I applied for the grant. Took them 2 years to award it. And then with the COVID slowed everything down, and we even had some problems with these ordinances and changing the design a little bit. And it was always back to the drawing board. And finally, we're there. I can't wait to see it, to be honest with you. So, yeah. So that's that. So that's what we've been doing through the COVID.
Great. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to old and new business. I know we have some people from the public that would like to speak. Go ahead. You want to, pop up to the microphone, state your name.
You're ready, Freddie.
I'm ready, okay. Good evening, I'm Joe Kane. I was told today by how old I am. I'm almost 72. One of the members of the staff brought it out. John and I were the only one that remembered on the phone call that when World War II ended. Anyway, moving right along, I want to show you a piece of property that the city actually owns. They've owned since 1945, and they paid $50 for it. It's arguably one of the most important pieces of property, waterfront, that the city has, and it's been remained unused for years. It's 10 acres. It's waterfront, and it's got 18 feet of water depth. This is the general area. You can see how it's on the Dania Cutoff Canal, and where it fits in relation to Highway 1 and the Northeast 10th Street. When you look at the current boat ramp facilities that the city has, they're not really applicable to what we have today. They were designed for 16, 14-foot boats and 55 Chevys. And now we have 65-foot center consoles with 6 engines and double cab pickups and all this stuff, and it doesn't fit anymore. So when you go ahead and you look at George English Park, we got a bridge that's low. When you go ahead and you look at 15th Street, there's not enough parking and just doesn't work. And that when you go and look at Cooley's Landing, it's again, not enough space, and it's in the middle of a residential section. This is a unique piece of property that the city owns and has since 1945, because it has tremendous access on big, wide roads and a tremendous amount of parking. 10 acres. Can we? Okay. So if you can see this where Northeast 10th Street, some people call it Taylor Road, the old Griffin Road, whatever you want to do. But you can see it's just south of the runway, and then Highway 1 there. And if you'll notice in, let's see, but go back one, John, can you? So I'm going to point out here where the city owns the property now. So it's this area here, and you can see Marine Max here, and you can see Directors here. So it goes from here to here, and the width of it's here. Some of it is. Oh, man, they didn't look at that. Isn't that fancy? Okay. All righty. Feel like a techno now. Okay, I'm just going to go around here. Okay, all righty. Okay, so it goes from here to here. I think it's 341 feet. We'll look at a drawing in a minute. And then it's 1,100 and something feet deep. But then you see the water here. You can see Marine Max. You can see Directors. 18 feet of water. You know, it was dredged recently. How do we go pull the trigger for the next one? Okay, so here's the whole, I'll do this again. Does it still work on this one? Oh, well, I can't see that. So you can see on the one side is the Highway 1, and then you see 10th Street to the north. And then, how do we? Okay, and here's the actual drawing, and it shows the width of it, 341 feet, and then the length of it, 1,100 and something feet long. What's unusual about this piece of property, it sits in the middle of property that's owned on each side by the county, and so the concern is that as valuable as this is, it needs to be used. The permits are in place to go ahead and move forward with this. And so that you have a tremendous amount, you have everything that you need to go ahead and that we don't have of the existing facilities. And so I think that the city should go ahead and form, the board should form some type of committee to go ahead and move forward with this, to look into it, to see the possibilities, and to see what's available. I think that could go ahead and go in short term. It has access off of 10th Street now, and so I suggest that y'all move forward with doing something and look at this in depth. Thank you for your time.
Chair, question for you. What do you propose? You propose a boat ramp, a floating dock? Can you go into more what you would?
Well, I would think.
What's your vision?
You want a boat ramp probably to the east end of it, and then the length of that, the rest of it would be a single floating dock, so you'd have the full length of it, and you don't have this thing where you go, okay, I got a slip where that. You go and you go, I got to put this size boat here and that size boat there. It would be a full-length floating dock. I mean, that's why I think that, y'all are better to decide for that type of thing. You've certainly looked at lots of different alternatives for docks and that worked or not. But I think that way it would provide more flexibility. It's extremely wide there. It's a no-wake area. So, and with the parking involved and with the amount of dockage, and it's something, it's an unused entity now that is extremely valuable, and we all know what waterfront's like and what the existing boat ramp facilities are like.
What seems interesting about this, the point you made regarding the other boat ramps is...
You have to talk a little louder for me.
Oh, sorry. An interesting point you made in regards to the other ramps that we have is that you're right. A small center council these days is 30 feet. And having the roadways and the proper parking to be able to get to a proper ramp is something that we are lacking right now. And you are correct in the sense that it is, from what you say, 18 feet of water, no fixed bridges.
Has anyone approached FP&L on this to see if we can work underneath their restrictions? Because they basically own all the rights to the sky there.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at currently Directors' facility, a substantial one, and you look at all of their employee parking, you'll go, Whoops. So if you look at a Google Earth thing now, you go, they're all parking underneath it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that,
Might as well
you know,
use
there's a shipping company that is to the east of Directors Parking. And so you'll see that everybody's parking underneath it now. And the employee parking for Marine Max, same area, same thing.
You said the city was zoned, or that it's permitted for something already?
Exactly.
What was it permitted for?
To put in a dock there. And so that
you should put a parking garage for the airport.
Not on waterfront land. Let them go out west.
Yeah.
But I don't think, if you look at the width of it, and if you, can you go back to the picture thing here? Is this thing running reverse? That one, yeah. Now, can we zoom it in, or they don't do that? Okay, that's all right. I can't hear very well, but I can talk real loud, so let me walk over to the thing here.
Here.
Look,
I'm zooming.
what do you work for, Microsoft or something?
Nope.
Okay, let's move it that way, and then move it up a little bit. Okay, all right. Now, so if you go ahead and you look at the power lines, that type of tower is called a Venetian tower in the Florida Power and Light vernacular, okay? But if you actually look at the width of the land owned by the city, and does it have it, does it little do thing, okay. So the story is that this is the edge of the Venetian tower, but the city's property goes ahead and exists all the way over here. So that as far as the concern about saying, do we want to park under the power lines like everybody else does, okay, you wouldn't even have to do that, because when you look at the width there, you go, man, you could put 3 18-wheel tractor trailers from there to there, couldn't you? And you go, and then you got that same length, and then you go, oh, and it goes way up here, and you go, yeah, you got, more parking than you knew at the soccer stadium.
I'm just thinking FPL may want to help out some and maybe let us use some of the other for parking as well. I mean, they're not using the land under it anyway, as long as we keep sailboats out of there.
You're not on your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said maybe FPL would even let us have some more of that land for underneath it, or a lease or some kind for underneath that even had more parking if they needed it.
Well, they're using this type of parking is already in place all over those power lines. So I don't, but you won't. What I'm saying is there's so much parking there that's not under the power lines.
Right.
You're not going to need to get under them.
Look that big, but I guess it is. I'll have to drive.
Yeah, it is once you get out there and walk around the dirt. So anyway, that's my thought, is the city needs to go ahead and look into this valuable resource, because we've lost control of the East Las Olas Marina. Okay, it has the new design. I remember that when Mr. Chairman, as he's still referred to as, was working on it back when I had a lot more hair. Then at that point, it's everything's still got problems. It's got bridges, it's got this, it's got that, and everything else. But this, you go, we don't have anything. I mean, there's one power line to get here. There's no bridges, and I think the power line's at 131 feet. So you go, Directors has a 900-ton travel lift, and they didn't buy that because they're stupid. And what's really interesting is you can actually bring in a bigger piece here than they do. And the reason why is that the slip that Directors put in is at an angle. And so you can actually tie up something bigger here than Directors can. So, if there was some special event or something, true, it would be ideal for the big boats that are there, the center consoles and things. But if you had some special event, now you've got big, long dock, you've got controlled access, okay, and there's no challenges here like you do every place else that the city's got.
I just have a quick question. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. It's a really great, cool parcel, especially in this city where everything's all built up. I'm just curious. Is like what's your dog in this fight here? I mean, what's the impetus to bring this to us tonight?
I'm going to die in this city, and they're going to spread my ashes in the Gulf Stream. I moved here in 2008 just so I could have the boats behind the house. So many people are driven by the profit motive. When I was younger, a lot younger, that was important to me, okay? That hadn't actually been important since the late 90s. And so that boats are part of my life. I have 12 boats. And so that this is all about saying, what can we do for the boating community? I don't care about the shopping community. I don't care about the XYZ community. I don't care about the whatever else, the flowers or the this or that. I'm just not that kind of guy, right? But the boating thing is all what this is about.
Thank you.
Great.
I even see another, we don't have any marina in town. I don't think we have any ramp in town that has anything for long-term storage either. So when people come, I know people bring their boats down from Georgia, from North Florida, want to go to Bimini. There's nowhere for long-term storage. And if you have plenty of parking, have a long-term storage section, make some money for the city and provide a service to people who want to go to Bimini.
And it's a rarity. I mean, that's what makes a diamond so much more expensive than coal. They're not that much different chemically.
Marketing.
But no, it's not it's rarity, you know?
Yes.
And so when you look at that and you look at other people's facilities, including on the Dania Cutoff Canal, if you keep going to the west, there's a boat ramp. And if you look at it, it's really good for 55 Chevys and 14-foot plywood boats. And so the story is this, we're supposed to be yachting capital of the world, yet our facilities just keep dwindling. And we're losing touch with today. We can't live in the past. You go, okay, now there's 65-foot center console boats that are sold as normal production. There's 80-foot center console boats that are on the drawing boards right now. And so the story is...
You'll see those going down 95, though.
What?
I don't think you'll see them going down I-95.
No, there's a guy with a 65-foot HCB now with an F650 Ford, if you know what that is, okay, with a trailer that goes ahead and pulls it. It's not as difficult to get OD permits as you think, and you go, well, how would you know about those? I go, you're talking to a guy that owned a trailer with 192 wheels. Yeah. Competitors of mine had ones that had over 1,000. And so that you can get 14 wide permits without such a problem. So, you know, it's going to get bigger. And so you just have to look to the future and not look to the past and say, we got this dirt. And the big concern here is this. The big concern is this, is you got the county on the east with that 171-foot wide piece. You got the county to the west with it's got everything all the way. And the last thing you want to do is lose this piece because you're never going to get it back.
Yep. Is there something something we should put in a letter to the commission? Are they the next step?
Well, yeah, I would think you'd need to, my humble suggestion is that you because this is going to require planning, everything's planning, preparation, execution, is to create maybe a committee that could go ahead and, with as important as this is and as multifaceted as it is, to go ahead and say, okay, we create a committee that goes ahead and uses the sniper rifle approach and not the shotgun to go ahead and say, the committee just studies this one thing because it's that important.
Who got it permitted to do the, who went through the process to get the permit for
You looking at him.
Oh, so how did you go through the permit process if the city owns the property?
I got it leased right now.
Oh, you have the property. Okay, well, that's.
But I'm old and tired.
That's a bigger dog.
I'm
in the fight then.
I'm old and tired, and I got a younger girlfriend. She says we're going to travel and quit hanging around.
So, what kind of lease do you have on the property?
It ends in January of next year. And as far as how we got the permits, remember Tyler Chappelle was in it earlier? You just give him a lot of money.
So then who would pay for this project if you have the leasing?
No, I'm going to be gone next year in January.
But who would pay for the docks and stuff?
I don't know. The city would. They'd own it.
He's not looking for being any part of it. He's not trying to make money.
No.
He just wants to. He
Bringing
has
this to our
control of land
attention.
now, and when he gets rid of control, he wants to make sure it doesn't go to some other
County.
project that.
I don't
wouldn't
want the
benefit
county to get it.
There you go.
Barry, go ahead.
Is that property big enough?
Richard.
I can't hear you.
Wait. Go ahead, Barry. Barry?
Is that
Somebody
property
mentioned earlier about challenges.
wide enough and big enough to put some rack storage on there so they can drive some revenue out of it?
Yeah.
Barry.
10 acres.
Yeah, so
So,
It's 1,150 feet long and 340 feet wide.
I think it would be a little bit better instead of just a ramp.
Would they let somebody get a longer lease?
Okay, guys, one at a time,
Would they let somebody get a
Hey,
50-year
guys,
ground lease?
Hey, Chris, one at a time. Barry, and you've got the floor. Go ahead.
several years ago, or somebody mentioned challenges up there. I forget, either one of you two guys said what challenges there were. The former city manager was the biggest challenge we had to this when we first floated this years ago. And Joe's right, it languished on, went nowhere. Feldman fought it at every turn we had. There was informal talks with FP&L that yes, we could have rack storage under those wires because, as he pointed out, there's plenty of other businesses there, and there would be sufficient room for a decent boat ramp. I'm happy to see Joe bring it back to the surface again, and I think it's certainly worthy of us looking into it.
Yes, I agree. Richard, you want to finish your talk? Go ahead.
No, it's just, if the property's large enough, sorry, but just to use it for a boat ramp seems a little out of sorts for that size, and that's why I would me personally would look at it to see if you could put some rack storage or something in there to drive some income into there for the city. Or they could lease it to someone to build that.
That's all the work for younger men, and that's why I suggest that you go ahead and you form a committee that's for younger people to carry the water.
I'm not one of the younger men.
Chris, did you have a thought?
Wait a minute now.
I was just thinking that
You have to go ahead and say who's younger and who's old in here. Come on, you.
Chris, go ahead.
I think that it would be an easy, if the city is willing to lease it and do a 50 or 100-year ground lease on it, I think it would be easy to put a group of people together to, I like really think on the north west corner, you should build a parking garage for the airport. The airport's growing. We have 30-something.
They already got their own plan for that.
Yeah, they got plenty.
On that parcel?
No, not on that parcel. They got their own parcel they got a plan for.
They got plenty of land of non-water-based land around. This water-based land is gold.
That's right. So the last thing you want is to go ahead and have,
Things like that. Oops.
I think the last thing you want is to lose control of it. You lost control of the East Las Olas Marina. And I'm trying to, Mr. Chairman, how should I say how that turned out?
I'm just saying to keep control of something, if you have generating revenue from it, it usually helps to keep something in your books, and parking is gold. And look at Manhattan.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're talking about leasing it to some private entity. We all know how that turns out. If we don't watch out, we're going to be another Brickell Avenue.
The water stuff, I'm just saying in this corner up here.
You need to.
There's so much land around the airport for parking if they wanted to do it.
The city needs to maintain control of it. And just like you go ahead, in other words, it's an updated version of what you've got everywhere else that is now and not 1955.
I would also like to see a design so that the dock companies can come in and if we separate a whole section for commercial use and they can load up their pilings.
Great idea. Great idea.
Absolutely. And it's a great place to do it. It's industrial.
It's on deep water and it's wide.
That's a great point.
And that way you could go ahead and.
Actually, I think we really can't, just a point of order, I think we really can't do a subcommittee because we can only have one person on any committee without having an act of
right. Well, I think that you're going to, when you look at the technical aspects of it and the various other things, I think that actually a committee where only with a single person would work, because that person could be the point person to develop data that they would go out and meet with people like engineers, go ahead and meet with planners, go ahead and all those types of things. And I'm familiar with roto operations and all that stuff.
Yeah, we can actually have a committee. It just can only have one person from this group, and then anybody in the audience, maybe that young gentleman back there, because that'll be his city one of these days.
Oh, I thought you were pointing when you said young gentleman, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, both of them.
Look at all that hair he's still got, man. It makes me jealous every day.
Yeah, hang on here.
I'd be happy between now and next meeting. I can't commit more than that because I'm going to be gone for quite a while, but in the next month I'll be around. I can do some research into that. And if anybody else in the room who's not on the board would like, or anyone else would like to kind of join me in some of those, Andrew, that'd be great.
Good.
And Ted, you had a question.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Oh, different Andrews, actually going in the back room.
What? Ted, go
I've
ahead.
got the floor. Thank you.
I'm a
Lots of good ideas being spitballed around this property. I think it's important that maybe we identify what commissioner this actually falls in, and maybe his office can actually spearhead the effort since.
Now, that's the
or
fun,
her.
that's the fun part. What city do you think this is in?
Well, if it's not Fort Lauderdale, we have no business talking about it, sir.
It's going to be Hollywood.
Oh, sure you do. You own it. That's the good part. You go.
And that, guys, that's my point. It's not a city of Fort Lauderdale represented parcel. So that there's a whole other problem that we have to deal with there. So
I have
lots of
an
great
idea
ideas,
that-
but it's not really within the city of Fort Lauderdale's purview if it's within the city of Dania.
But they
I
own it.
understand that, but it's
City
not
owns
within
it.
our incorporated area.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Glassman knows all about it, and let's see, and also Mr. Sorensen knows all about this specific
sure they
piece
do.
of dirt. So they're well aware, but the city owns it, and they need to maintain control of it, because if you don't watch it, the county's going to go ahead and take it, and then guess what? More city stuff's gone.
Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
One idea is for me to bring the draft minutes to the attention of the city manager and the city
it's gonna
attorney
fall
to look
under
into
him.
the initial legalities associated with this prospect.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea to start from there. And I think, Joe, that you bring up a great point. I think this board would support something along these lines moving forward. I think that's the next step, is to, Andrew, put something together, put it in front of the city manager, and then we'll circle back on it and we'll re-review next month. Because I think this is a good idea. And this is a little piece of gold that has deep water, good amount of space, good parking, and unrestricted access to the intercoastal and to the ocean.
And I'd be happy to help you with that if you want, or to talk to Chris, and I'll reach out to FP&L as well. I know the guy who kind of runs the county here pretty well, so we'll kind of get something done before next meeting.
I think that'd be excellent.
Great.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. I have so much fun playing with it. Now look, it goes in around.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I know that we have one more person from the public allowed to speak. Go ahead, just come on up, state your name.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Hardy Anderson. I'm the president of Peterson Fuel. I've been the president of Peterson Fuel for the past 5 years. I've been working for my family-owned business for just a little bit over 8 years. Well, just to tell you what I'm here to talk about is kind of my concern about, the big corporations that have been purchasing all of our major marinas in town and everything like that. So in my first 5 years with the company, I worked very hard to gain a better understanding for the marine industry and have been blessed to meet some great individuals and help me along the way to successfully grow my marine fueling operation. I felt very proud and confident in the direction our business was going and the opportunity moving forward and continuing to grow. Over the last 3 years, my confidence has changed. Big businesses has come in and changed the landscaping of our marine industry. In some ways good, in some ways bad. If you were a small business, you were already at a competitive disadvantage against these powerful businesses with endless money streams. These large companies are happy to invoke small businesses when convenient, especially when it helps them keep power. It's essentially reputational laundering. But one can be less obvious is that these same entities are constantly finding new ways to stunt small business growth and to keep new entrants and potential competitors at bay. They also create roadblocks and find ways to extract money and power from small businesses in order to maintain their positions and increase profits. They use their power as a gatekeeper to reach customers as a way to extract fees and unfair terms on small businesses. This platform makes it hard for small businesses to coexist. In many ways, they're now monopolies that run pseudo-private governments of their own. They set their own rules and regulations for who gets to use products and services and how. These companies are the ones deciding who the winners and losers are in the marketplace. So you're not really seeing the best ideas and products and services because they're determining that for you. Big versus small is a persistent dynamic in the American economy. And again, while big isn't always bad and small isn't always good, it's important to look under the hood every once in a while and see what's actually going on. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Chris, go ahead.
That was nice. What's your concern, or what can we do to help?
Well, again, Peterson Fuel's been around for over 20 years. I've been running it personally for just a little bit over 8 years. And when I first got into the industry, it was very welcoming. We had a bunch of old school guys that ran shipyards and everything and just let small businesses prosper and, run their businesses. And now you got all these new guys that are just restricting trade and just, coming up with ideas overnight or whatever it is. You got some guy in China that's saying, this is what's going to be the rule and isn't here, isn't local, isn't seeing what's going on. And in the marine industry in the past couple of years, I've noticed a fall in morale in my clients and just where our industry is turning into. And, this is our livelihood. This is what makes Fort Lauderdale, one of the best cities in the world because we're the yachting capital. And just, there are a lot of small businesses I know, owners that are they're too prideful to come up here and say that they need help and stuff like that. And, as far as the gentleman that came before us, looking at that piece of property, I can tell you that there's big players that are already looking at that, instead of looking at, helping the city and, just and that. So that's why I'm here to just start dialogue. And, I'm one of the young guys. I'm 35 years old. I moved here, 4 years ago, and, I want to be part of this community, and I do my best to meet people and everything. And, I want to move forward and be a part of, the positive change in this community. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Hardy.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good words.
Thank you.
Okay. Some great discussion tonight and some new ideas, which is always appreciated and welcomed, and it's good to have participation from everybody. So thank you very much. Is there any other old or new business, Andrew?
Old business communication, the commission at this past Tuesday's meeting specific to the communication commission from the last meeting. I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm spacing. I'll think about it. I'll let you know. Sorry.
You want to get?
We're not one of the young people.
Should we get back to you on that, Andrew?
Yeah. The water cleaning protein skimmer operation.
Yeah.
You endorsed their activities, and the commission did not discuss it, but it was read. The communication was read. Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Is there anything I can be doing to try to, I'd offered a few months ago to try to get involved with the water. I've recently bought a 72-gallon saltwater fish tank and created a coral tank so I can try to learn about what water quality should be and to learn about, get my own protein skimmer. And so I had Dr. Charlie set me up with everything and got me some fish and coral. But is there anything I should try to be doing actively, or is there anybody you think, or any people I recently got on the board for Birch State Park, because I know that they have a lot of the waterways there, and they have so many mangroves, and the water is flowing in and out of there. So I feel like that will be a tool that I can use to try to help clean the intercoastal too. But is there any ideas on stuff
You
I
could get in touch with the guys that spoke last month directly.
Yeah, I'm in contact with them. I've gone diving with them up at Peanut Island and helped with some stuff that they're working on in Palm Beach. So I don't know. What? Yeah, we need a submarine. I know the Triton guys local, right? So there you go. So, but if there is anything that comes up or somebody hears of something going on, I'm gonna go up to in Orlando in a month. There's a fish tank coral reef kind of convention, I guess. So I can kind of learn in the community, because it's gonna be just like the protein skimmer is taking fish tank technology and adapting it to something bigger. So I don't know if there's something you think I should be doing or somewhere I should be going or something.
Yeah, if anybody,
let me know.
If anybody has any suggestions to
Yeah,
Chris.
just in that area. I got enough advice for the rest of my life.
Okay. Any other new or old business from the board or from the public? If not, then we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Second from Ted. All those in favor? Aye.